Hey, family. Hey, it's your girl, Michelle Franklin, Miss Michelle Allen Franklin, Miss D.I. Honey, for divine intervention. You know there are no coincidences in this world, only God's divine intervention in our lives. Miss D.I. Honey, and Miss Community Builder. Why? Because I'm always going to bring you the good information, all the things that I need for you to help build you up, honey. Building community. Yes. The men, the women, our children. That's what it's all about. Building community. Miss Community Builder here. Y'all know how I do. So, we are continuing our series on addiction. Addiction is one of those things that it is a very hard thing to talk about, but it is the necessary conversations that you need to have with yourself, right? You don't need anybody to tell you that you're addicted to something, right? You don't need anybody to tell you, mm, you've been doing a little bit too much. You don't need people to tell you, like, you know it, you feel different. You know that you are leaning on something, right? Go back and watch day one. If you haven't already. It's not just about substance abuse, about alcohol and drugs. There's 14 things listed. Your girl didn't know I have a food addiction. I really do have a food addiction. Um, I stress eat, right? I use food the way that people use alcohol and drugs to cope. We all have our different methods of coping. But when it becomes a problem, when it becomes excessive, that's when we're moving over here into the next round. And so we're talking this week about your mind, your body, your spirit, your emotions. How does addiction show up and affect your mind, your body, your spirit, and your emotions? You can look up all the other stuff. We don't do things just on a regular level here. We go a little bit deeper. What's in the pit of your belly? How did this stuff start? How is it affecting my mind? Because sitting on the surface where it's comfortable, you're not going to get past like that. You got to go down into some uncomfortable places, into some dark places within you. You might have to go back and revisit to decide and make the decision. It's time. Whenever you're ready. No judgment, because everybody is in their own different spaces, right? But whenever you're ready, know that we're going to tackle this thing. And this is just some tools. Now, y'all know out there, your girl is not a therapist. I am a nurse. I've been a nurse for 22 years at this point, and it is a conscious decision for me to educate on the uncomfortable things that have to do with your mental health. Why? Because your girl suffered for 2 years and then another 2 years before I realized and then made a decision to make in a very intentional shift to start educating myself and then educating others. So, what I know and what I find out, things that affect our mental health, I'm going to teach about it. I'm going to share. And so that's where we are this morning. We are in this series of addictions, honey. So let's go. Today we're talking about the mind. Now, why the mind? Because, honey, if you don't go back and understand the factors that have, why did I even start doing this thing? Like, what happened? What's going on? If you don't go back and understand the brain chemistry, right? The way that the mind works, then guess what? You're winning and losing battle. Like you're starting off shooting yourself in the foot. Again, we got to travel down. So understanding the interplay between addiction and the mind is crucial. This is the research right here. It's crucial for effective prevention and treatment. So let's go. What are some things? Addiction, of course, we talked about this the other day. It's complex. What I'm addicted to, what you're addicted to, might be two different things, right? But the foundation of that thing, the foundation. Um, and so it often starts with the mind. Something happened that you couldn't cope with, or you're trying to cope with, right? And and so there's some psychological factors that play a significant role. So these factors, such as stress, is what we're looking at today. Factors such as stress, trauma, mental health disorders, and genetic disposition. Damn it. Is it in my blood? Jesus. Generational curses. Yeah, we're going there. Can contribute to the development of addiction. All right, let's go. Number one, stress. These are contributing factors and that contribute to the development of addiction. How did it start? We're talking stress. So, under stress, we have, let's see, 5 things. Let's go. Stress as a trigger. So, many people turn to substances or behaviors like alcohol, drugs, even gambling as a way to cope with stress. They seek temporary relief from the discomfort or anxiety caused by stressors in their lives. Stress is huge. Stress is a huge factor. 9 times out of 10, it is the cause of most things. We don't even realize it. I talked the other day about being very stressed at work, being in a new position as a new manager. I was the youngest manager. I was the only African American manager, and I had all eyes on me, right? I was in a position that had not been filled in over 5 years. And so there was a lot of work to do, right? And I had never been a manager before. All I knew was that God had given me a vision. And I was asked to apply for the position. And initially I said no, right? I was asked to apply for the position. I said no. But then I got home and I started dreaming. God was giving me visions of ways that I could help and what I could do and the things that I've always wanted and things that I didn't like that I could change and that whole thing. And so I applied for the position. But being in a position and being, again, only Black, the youngest, in a position that hadn't been filled in 5 years. And I was in the outpatient department. And so there were not a lot of resources. There wasn't anybody really for me to go to for help. I had to pray, get vision, and figure that thing out. It was stressful, right? And so that I could remember feeling the need to want to have a drink. I would joke with my boss, "Ooh, I'm driving past the liquor store." Right, I said this the other day, honey, in Baltimore, it's a lot of liquor stores to drive past, baby. I was driving. I said, Lord, if I start this habit, I knew it was going to be a problem. I didn't even want it to start. But stress, number one, what things in your life are you stressed about? How are you handling your stress? Right? Something to think about and something to look at because stress is a trigger. So think about when something is happening, are you smoking? Is it smoking weed for you? Right? That when you get stressed, I talked about this too. And again, listen, let me tell you something about me. This is not a place of judgment over here, honey. Because you best believe your girl, I don't have no space to judge anybody. But I bring you the information and I give you the things that you need because when you're ready and when you want to make a change, then you can, right? And so what I know for sure is that I remember being in my 20s, early 20s. I never smoked cigarettes, but I was smoking the little blacks, little Black and Miles, had them little beanies. Yeah, I was hitting them. Very stressed, right? And I could remember being in nursing school. I told a story the other day about this guy I was talking to. He thought I was cheating on him. He thought another man was in the house because your girl was stressed, laid in the bed, went out and bought me a 3-pack of Black and Milds. I needed 3 just in case, but I smoked the one and it was enough. So I put the other 2 in the drawer. The man thought I was cheating on him. Seriously, because I'm not a smoker, but I knew enough from when I was going through that early part of the divorce, and my ex-husband smoked, and so it was just something. So number 1, stress as a trigger. Number 2, stress-induced cravings. So chronic stress, that is people that have been in stressful situations time and time and time again. It's one of those things where it's like, you ever been in a season where stuff is just coming and coming, like it's this thing and this thing, it's the kids, it's the wife, it's at work, it's at home, it's all over. Lord have mercy, everybody acting crazy, right? So chronic stress can lead to changes in the brain chemistry. Catch it. Chronic stress can lead to changes in the brain chemistry that makes individuals more susceptible to addiction. What happens when you stress? Cortisol is released. Cortisol is one of those things that makes you crave, right? So stress-induced cravings. Cortisol, if you're in a stressful situation and you stay in stressful situations, cortisol will increase. That's the natural hormone that you have in your body. And guess what? That cortisol is like, oh, where's my cigarette? Oh, where's my drink at? Oh, let's go get some French fries. Oh, what's your addiction? Oh my God, let's go gamble. Oh my God, I got to go. Oh, my hand is itching. Let me go get, right? Stress-induced cravings. It's natural. Your body is craving. That's why sometimes it just feels almost like I need it. I need it because your body is craving it. That cortisol is like, let's go. Go give me my happy stuff. Go give me my stuff, girl. Give me my substances I need. Go give me my stuff, right? Even sex, right? For those people out there, listen, we did the list the other day. I told you go back and watch the first video. So you know what's on the list. Sex, honey, you just randomly are putting yourself out there for, now don't, listen, men and women. Don't get it twisted. Men and women. Put yourself out there for somebody, or you just feel this urge and this need because you're stressed to make a phone call. Yeah, that's what it is. And then you get, because what happens in these situations? Can I say it like I want to say it? I am. This is just who I am. You get your nut from the men. I can say it better. You come a little bit. For the women, hopefully you come a lot. And then what? You don't want nothing else to do with the person because you have what you need. That need has been fulfilled. Okay. Stress it. That's too much for somebody. Stress-induced cravings. Okay. Number 3, escalation of substance use. There's an escalation of substance use. We're talking about stress over time. Using addictive substances to manage stress can lead to increased tolerance. What does that mean? It means that, I got high and I used to smoke this much and it used to do it for me, but now I got to drink a little bit more. Now I got to smoke a little bit more. Now I got to do a little bit more. Now I got, dang, I used to be able to just call him on Friday night. And now I'm like, ooh, what are you doing on Monday? Ooh, it's lunchtime. What are you doing on it? Ooh, I used to just be able to go down and gamble, every weekend, every month, or, now I got to go every weekend. Now it's Tuesday, I'm going, right? You're craving it. It's coming up. There's an escalation, an overuse. It's just not doing it for me. What used to work for me is not working no more. I need more. I hear Temptations. They were roughing in the Temptations movie. He said, when he was in a crack house. And the guy was asking him, he had some, he was like, give me some more. I need some more. Like, I need more, right? He gave him a whole bag. Where's that? I need more. Like the little bit that probably used to work for you doesn't work now. And mind you, I'm referencing, drugs and alcohol and everything. But again, go back to the list because anything on the list. For me, it was I used to go after work and get fries, right? And then I used to go get a Brahms a banana split. I used to be able to go and just get an order of mozzarella stick, and then and I will be good. But then it got to a point where, nope, that didn't do it. It was an escalation of my stress. I was stressed every day. During COVID, stressed every day. So guess what I'm doing every day? Every day I'm going. It's not just once a week. It's not just, oh, I'm craving this today. No, it's every day I'm going. I'm going to the Brahms. I'm going every day. Every day. Every day. It's a problem, right? What are you doing every day? What are you doing more often than you used to? Not, you know what I mean? What are you craving more than you used to? A lot of people with cigarettes. I used to be able to just smoke. Some people up to a pack of cigarettes. Some people up to a pack and a half of cigarettes a day, right? Because your stress level is increasing. Number 4, negative cycles. Addiction itself can be a significant source of stress. As individuals become more dependent on the addictive substance or behavior, they may experience financial, legal, social, and health related problems, which can intensify stress levels. What does that mean? That means that now you're going out and you've been doing this thing more. So now it's affecting your relationships. So now you stress at home. You're going out and you're buying stuff that you can't afford. So now you're putting yourself in a legal situation. Now you're going out and maybe you've made the decision. It could be crack or drugs or heroin or whatever. And that type of addiction will make you sell your body. It will make you steal from your mama. It will make you, right? It'll make you do some things that you may not have even thought about doing. So now you're in this negative cycle. And I hear some people that are saying, well, all I do is I smoke weed. But some people, before the weed would do, now you got to lace the weed with something, right? The regular's not going to do. I'm not a weed smoker. I can't think of all the names or whatever, but I know that there's names when you put more and you lace it and you do all of the stuff, right? Before, just the weed would do. Before, you'd be able to just smoke once a day. I have people that I know with weed that they wake up smoking weed. They got to smoke it in the middle of the day. They got to smoke it at night. If you have to smoke now, I know, listen, all my weed smokers, don't come for me. Ain't nobody ever robbed nobody smoking weed. I can hear you. We just be chilling out on you. You're still coping from a substance, right? Again, no judgment if that's what you feel like you need to do until you get tired of doing that. But you're still coping with something that's outside. It's still something that you're not dealing with in your mind. And so that's all that it is, right? That's all that this means. It is to bring attention to the things that we're using to cope, because instead of just dealing with it, instead of dealing with whatever the pain is, instead of allowing your body to process like it should, allowing to feel the pain that you need to feel so that you can go through the grief process and move on, you're staying stuck. You're staying stuck. Your mind is stuck there, right? Cycles. Your mind is stuck there. I gotta get this. I gotta use this. I can't cope anywhere else. I hear the movie Sparkle, Sister can't fly with one wing. Right? She was on heroin. Sister can't fly with one wing. It was the stress of life that was basically killing her and led her to the addiction of heroin, right? Sister can't fly on one wing. Number 5, withdrawal stress. Number 5 is withdrawal stress. When addicted individuals try to quit or reduce their substance use, they often experience withdrawal symptoms, which can include heightened stress, anxiety, and even depression. This is very important. Withdrawal stress. That means I've got to a point in a decision in my life where I've decided you know what, I'm not going to drink that much. This is a problem. I'm not going to smoke that much. And it is admirable to try to do things on your own, right? It is not a sign of weakness that you can't. It means that your body, again, has gone, them cortisol levels are rising. There are things inside of your body that are working against you that you can't see, right? Does not make you weak. It means that your body is craving. So your body is working against you. Your mind is working against you. And I don't know how long you've been doing what you've been doing, but think about this. If you've been doing something for an extended period of time, and then you just all of a sudden try to cold turkey quit, you're going to suffer. And so unless you're used or ready to deal with the suffering, and what I'm seeing is Ray Charles in the bed, quitting, crying, coping, in the bathroom, throwing up, all of that. You're going to go through a process of withdrawal. If you're drinking, if you're smoking, food, if you can't get by the time you get to that third day, yeah, you gung ho, you gonna stop eating, honey. That sugar craving that you've been feeding, that sugar monster that you've been feeding for however long, for years. You think the sugar monster just gonna die inside of you because you decided that you saw something and all of a sudden you decided that you're not doing it no, babe. Sugar monster, and they're like, I don't know what the hell you think you doing, but I'm hungry. What sugar at? What we doing? You have to have a plan, honey. You have to have support, right? You have to, make your mind up that you want to change, but trying to do it alone increases your risk of relapse. You need tools, right? And it's not just one thing. Like, it's almost like when I found out um, why I had gained the weight. Um, and I'll talk about that in another thing, so I'm not going to go into that now. But when I found out why I gained the weight, I thought, oh my God, I have the answer now. I know why I did it. Oh, okay, this is good. I'm good now. No, babe. No, that wasn't the only thing. This is not the only thing that you have to do. There are multiple things. There's multiple steps. Don't set yourself up for failure, right? Make up in your mind that you want to do it, but prepare yourself for the withdrawals or whatever it is. The gambling, it's a strong urge. It's a strong feeling because, again, that hormone is inside of you. So anytime that you have stress, anytime that you start feeling anxiety, anytime that you start having depression, that's not a good feeling. Guess what you're going to do? You're going to go back. I don't want to feel like that. I'm feeling the withdrawals. I don't want to feel like this. This is a terrible feeling. Okay, let me just go smoke. Okay, let me just go. Let me just go get a drink. Let me just drink a little. Right? So don't set yourself up for failure. We're talking about the addictions and we're talking about mind. And the very first thing is stress. Yes, stress is a very crucial part of addiction. Very crucial contributing factor in addiction. Number 2 was trauma. Let's get into it. Addiction and trauma. Addiction and trauma often coexist and can have a complex relationship. Trauma can be a contributing factor to the development of addiction, and addiction can be a way individuals cope with the emotional pain and distress associated with trauma. These are some ways to show how it's interconnected. So these are 5 ways to show how trauma and addiction are connected, okay? Number 1, trauma as a precursor. People who has experienced trauma, such as a physical abuse, sexual assault, emotional neglect, may turn to addictive substances or behaviors as a means of self-medicating to numb the emotion and pain and distress associated with the traumatic experience. How many people do you know? Are you the person, right? And the other part is that this goes back to childhood. So when we see children smoking, when you see children drinking, when you see children that try drugs, why? Something is going on in the home. Maybe I've seen mama and daddy get beat up. Maybe I've seen mama and daddy, mama fighting, right? Maybe there's some abuse going on in the home. Maybe I'm the one that's being abused. Maybe I'm the one that's being molested. And now all I have are these memories. I'm very visual. So when things have happened to me, I see them over and over and over again, right? I could be randomly doing something and will just, right? Trauma as a precursor. And so understand that if this is you, then I know that you don't want to go back and revisit, right, the molestation. I know you don't want to go back and revisit the rape. I know you don't want to go back and revisit that relationship. I know you don't want to go back and revisit the trauma. But if you try to sit up and ignore and think about how long you've been trying to ignore what has happened to you, your body still remembers. Your body still remembers. There's a book I reference all the time. It's called The Body Keeps a Score. See it? The body keeps a score. So whether you think, oh my God, that happened when I was a child. Oh my goodness, I'm 40, 50, 60 years old now. But wondering why, you're in this never ending loop. That is why, because you never dealt with the trauma. And there are some people that are like, oh my God, Michelle, that happened a long time ago. What are you talking about? What is it? What does that have to do with anything? It has everything to do with that. Everything to do with it. So until we get clear about what's in our minds, until we get honest with ourselves about some things that have happened to us that have affected us. And for me, like, I thought it was just one thing, but guess what? Multiple things. There are multiple things in there. And so it's almost like you have to have like a little checklist. It's not a one-stop shop. It's not a one-time thing. You can't go to therapy one time, 2 times off your your EAP program at work and get the 2 free sessions and then talking about therapy ain't work for me. I've been in therapy for years. I still got stuff to talk about every 2 weeks. I still have stuff to talk about every 2 weeks. It is an ongoing process. Now, what works for you and what works for me, and depending on how bad your trauma is in the beginning, you might need to be seen every week, right? When I first started off, I needed to be seen every week. But again, trauma is a precursor to the addiction. Why did you start? What are you running from? Number 2, self-medication. Substance abuse or addictive behaviors can provide temporary relief from the symptoms of trauma, including anxiety, depression, and flashbacks. The flashbacks are real. You're running and trying to forget. I know that you don't want to relive it. I understand that it's uncomfortable, right? In my mind, my cousin used to keep me under this little bed frame. It was a space under the bed, and that's where he would molest me. I have flashes, and I would have flashes of that damn near once a day, minimum. At some point, I would just see it. I'm going on about my day. It's been years, but guess what? I would see it. I would see it. And it was and just keep it moving. Because I ain't got time to be thinking about that. I ain't got time. That's what we do. I don't have time to be thinking about that. I ain't talking about that. I ain't doing that. I ain't talk about it. I ain't talk. But is it there? Are the things there? Are the ill relationships there? Are the things that you trusted somebody and they betrayed your trust? Is that there? You've had a man or a woman that you trusted and they put their hands on you and they say that they love you. Is it there? You think just because you moved on to the next relationship, it's not there? Somebody touched you inappropriately. Somebody touched you without your permission. Do you think that it's not there? It's still there. Whether you admit it or not. That's why you're drinking. That's why you're smoking. That's why you sexing, right? That's why you gambling. That's why we're doing all of the things, right? That's why I'm eating. I ate so much one year because I was intentionally trying to gain weight. This was in my 20s. I was intentionally trying to gain weight. You know why? Because I didn't want to be seen. I felt like I was being looked at as a piece of meat. This was after the rape, so after the molestation. So I didn't want to be seen anymore. So I was eating. Maybe I could not be attractive. Maybe if I'm just not attractive, then maybe somebody will see my mind. Somebody will see the great person that I am. But it didn't matter because what happened? My boobs got bigger, my butt got bigger. Baby, somebody wants you whether you're small or you're large. So you have to deal with the issue. That's what I found out, baby. I ain't never had a problem getting a man. 270 pounds, close to 300. It didn't matter. Somebody like it. And when I was 124 pounds, somebody likes it. Right? It doesn't matter the size. So what you think you're trying to hide from? What you're running from, not addressing the issue. What we're running from, self-medicating. However you're self-medicating, with whatever you're self-medicating with, check the list. What are you self-medicating with? It's still there. It's still there. Number 3, escalation and dependency. Over time, as individuals use substances or engage in addictive behaviors to cope with trauma, they may become dependent on these coping mechanisms. The dependency can lead to addiction as they require more of the substances or behavior to achieve the same level of relief. We've talked about this. So again, the escalation of dependency after a trauma. What are you dependent on? Number 4, re-traumatization. Addiction can lead to a range of negative consequences, including legal, financial, social problems, which can further compound trauma and lead to a cycle of re-traumatization. It is it's almost like the PTSD. Again, it's replaying in your mind. It is a cycle, right? Similar. Number 5, integrated treatment. Effective treatment for co-occurring addiction and trauma often involves addressing both issues simultaneously, addressing the addiction and addressing the trauma. Number 5 is integrated treatment. Trauma informed therapy and counseling can help individuals process their traumatic experiences and develop healthier coping strategies, reducing their reliance on addictive substances or behaviors. When I was in a domestic violence situation, I did not know that there were different types of counselors. So some people might say, I've been to a counselor and it didn't work. Did you go to a counselor that specializes in trauma? If you've had some traumatic things that have happened to you, you have to, like, you can Google this now, it's such a beautiful thing. But go to and find a counselor that is specializing in whatever it is that you need. And one that specializes in trauma normally has a different skill and a different skill set is what I want to say. There are different practices because you have to go back and look at different experiences. I'm going to give you an example. When I had the domestic violence situation, I was seeing this. One of my coworkers told me about this program, and this counselor over at Sinai Hospital. And so I go over there, and again, she specialized in trauma, and she did what was called EDP. I'm trying to remember if it was the correct name. I'll have the correct name at the bottom of the screen and what it means. But nevertheless, I'll never forget what the procedure does is it reprograms things in your mind. It takes an incident that you've had and it reprograms it in your mind. When we have things that happen to us and we haven't dealt with it, it stays very clearly on one side of the brain, the side of the brain that is very much keeping things very active, right here in the forefront. Psh, psh. So every time you get a trigger, it's like right there, and it triggers you, and you're back into the moment. You're back into the trauma. You're back into the anxiety of it all. You might have a panic attack. You might just come down here and shrink and swallow and hide, right? Because it takes you back. It's so strong, the memory. And what the procedure does is it switches it from one side of the brain to the other side of the brain so that that side of the brain is in the long-term memory. So it's there. It doesn't make you forget, but it does put it in the side of the brain where I know that happened. I can process that thing a little bit differently. I can handle, the events that took place, and I'm looking at it from a different lens, right? I know that this bad thing happened to me. You can have compassion for the other person. You can just see it. You just see it differently. Is what I just remember about it. It was within 1 hour for me. Now everybody's situation is different, but the situation that I had at that period of time, and this was a situation with another family member. It was a very traumatic incident for me, and by the time that I left, because I had so much anger and emotion and all of that in there, and it was really affecting me. But by the time I left within an hour's time, I looked at that situation completely different. It was amazing. And so, again, there are different treatments depending on what type of therapist you have. And so, make sure that you are getting, if you are suffering from trauma, make sure that you get a therapist that specializes in trauma. Okay. The third thing that is said that for the mind, that is one of the factors for being addicted or even beginning to be addicted was um, mental health disorders, addiction and mental health disorders. So, addiction and mental health disorders can often co-occur. Uh, this is a comorbidity, meaning something that will affect you and cause you to increase your chances of dying early. It can complicate the diagnosis and the treatment because they are so interconnected, addiction and mental health disorders. Again, I'm not a therapist, but I'm giving you and bringing you information. How do you know that you have a mental health disorder? You have to see a psychologist. You have to be tested, right? There's specific tests that you can do. Some that take a few minutes, like knowing your depression score and your anxiety score. That is something that can happen at your doctor's office. The nurse can do it with you within a few minutes. You will know your scores and know that, treatment regimen. Panic attacks can be diagnosed by your doctor. You can go and talk to them. This is what I'm feeling. These are some things that are happening, and they can diagnose you based on what you're saying. Now, there are some other things like PTSD, where you have to go and see a special psychologist. They have special testing that they do. It's like a 3-hour thing. It's very specific and it's very long. Your doctor or your therapist will have to refer you to the testing center, but it is the best 3 hours that you want to spend because you get a list of things. That is what I did in the fall of last year. That is how I found out I was diagnosed with PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome disorder. So understand that there are some things that are going on inside of you. You don't know, why am I acting this way? Why am I responding this way? What has happened? Why can't I let this go? There are certain things that are going on inside of you that may be beyond your control because you don't understand that maybe there's a mental disorder attached. Once you understand that there's a mental disorder attached, guess what? That you can get the treatment that's appropriate. It's almost like giving an antibiotic. I've been taking this antibiotic and why isn't it working? Well, there are different types of bacteria out there. So you need the right treatment regimen in order for it to be effective, right? So there's no shame. There's no guilt. There's no sign of weakness. Knowing that you're diagnosed with a mental health disorder, knowing that you might be diagnosed with chronic depression, knowing that you might be diagnosed with panic attacks, knowing that you might be diagnosed with anxiety. There are so many people suffering from anxiety. If you're African American, the chances that you have anxiety, over 50%. If you are African American, the chances that you have PTSD undiagnosed, over 50%. Do you know why? Because we have we have been in situations, we have grown up in situations, we have been in situations that, and not no to other people and other races and everything else, because y'all have been in situations and things too. But I'm just saying, in the African American community and the Black and Brown community, there have been excessive things that we have been exposed to, excessive things that have happened, excessive things that we've had to overlook. We keep it moving. We keep going. We're in the generation and of the mindset that you don't say what went on in mom and daddy's house. That you don't say that, uncle so and so, who ain't your uncle, that's your auntie's boyfriend, touched on one of the kids, on one of the girls. We don't talk about that type of thing. We don't talk about that mama didn't believe that something happened because she wanted to keep talking to the boyfriend, so she just disregarded when you told her that he was touching on you. We don't talk about that. That's all grounds and means for PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And no worries. I got a video on that too. So stay with me. But I'm saying mental health disorders that need to be diagnosed so that you can get the correct treatment regimen is what we're all about. I had no idea that I was suffering from chronic depression, from anxiety. I had no idea. I suffered for 2 years, suffered in silence. The statistics are alarming. 1 in 5 people. That means you look in your office, look at work, go into Walmart, any crowded place that you're in, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, 1, 2. If you're a lot of people, and you're probably in the number. So it's very important for you to get clear about what might be going on with you. So talk to your doctor. I encourage you. But these are some risk factors. Number one, we're going over 6 here. Number one, shared risk factors. Both addiction and mental health can share some common risk factors, such as genetics. If your mama had depression, your mama had anxiety, your mama had your auntie, your grandma, your dad, right? 9 times out of 10. Now it is said that in the womb, if mama was sad while she was pregnant with you, you're getting all of those emotions. If mama wasn't in the best mental state, you're getting those emotions. Number 2, childhood trauma. These are number 1, shared risk factors. Childhood trauma, environmental influences. These are factors that can increase the likelihood of developing both addiction and mental health disorders. Number 2, when you self-medicate, that can increase the risk of addiction. We talked about that, but it also can increase the risk of you developing a mental health disorder. Because what? You may turn to substances or addictive behaviors as a way to self-medicate and alleviate the symptoms of their mental illness, like depression. Who wants to feel sad? I don't want to feel sad. Let me go over here and smoke this stuff. This will make me feel better. I don't want to feel this way. Let me go over here and drink me a little bit. This going to make me feel better. You're self-medicating. You're numbing the emotional pain, right? Number 3, biological factors. There are biological factors that play a role. Substance abuse can alter brain chemistry. There's a video I'm going to play for you for that. Potentially worsening pre-existing mental health or triggering new ones. What does that mean? That means that worsening pre-existing mental health conditions, that means I'm a little bit sad. I'm going to smoke me something. I'm going to drink me something. I'm going to make me. And then what do? We talked about it earlier. You continue because I felt good. So you're continuing. You're making it worse. You think that you're making it better because what are we doing? We're chasing that first. What they say about we're chasing that first high? We're chasing that first feeling. Easy. Number 4, escalation. That means over time, addiction can escalate, leading to increased severity of both addiction and the mental health disorder. This can create a vicious cycle where the two conditions reinforce each other. That was escalation. Number 5, dual diagnosis. When someone is diagnosed with both an addiction and a mental health disorder, it's referred to as a dual diagnosis or co-occurring disorders. Treatment for individuals with a dual diagnosis typically involves integrating and addressing both conditions simultaneously. This might include therapy, it might include medication, support groups, and lifestyle changes. We talked about this. It's not just going to be one thing, right? Number 6, increase vulnerability. People with a mental health disorder may be more vulnerable to addiction. People with a mental health disorder may be more vulnerable to addiction, and those with addiction issues may be at higher risk of developing a mental health disorder. Early intervention and treatment are critical to prevent this cycle from worsening. What does that mean? That means as soon as I'm feeling some kind of way, let me address it. So, what does it mean for me to make sure that I'm paying attention to my mental health? Why is it so important? And so, because that can lead me to coping, that could lead me to coping outside of healthy ways to cope, right? It leads me to coping. Oh, let me just, when I got divorced, oh, you want a drink? I'm at a party. You want to, yeah. Yeah, I want a drink. What you got, babe? Yeah, give me some of that. Easy, easy. Number 4 was addiction and genetic predisposition. Addiction and genetic predisposition. So genetic predisposition, blah, blah, blah. Let me say it right. Genetic predisposition plays a significant role in addiction. Excuse me. It can increase an individual's susceptibility to developing addiction to certain substances or behaviors. Here's how genetic predisposition is connected to addiction. And we're listing 6 things. Number 1 is inherited vulnerability. Inherited vulnerability. Some people inherit genetic factors that make them more vulnerable to addiction. These genetic factors can increase how their bodies metabolize substances, how their brains respond to reward, and how they experience cravings. What does that mean? Again, in your womb, if mama and daddy was drinking, if mama and daddy were smoking, if mama and daddy were doing things that addictive behaviors, if mama and daddy were doing things that they were not handling, dealing with their emotions in a way, then guess what? Through that umbilical cord, you have a predisposition. There's a predisposition. So your brain is a little bit different. That means you're going to have more cravings to drink when you're in a stressful situation. You're going to have more cravings to smoke. You're going to have how many family members? That's why we say generational curses, right? How many family members do you know are drinking? How many family members do you know are smoking? How many family members do you know? It's a whole genetic thing. It's a whole genetic cycle, right? You have to make a conscious decision to not be a part of the struggle, to choose to handle it another way, right? To know that, okay, I had this one drink and that's cool, but if I'm craving, inherited vulnerability. Number 2, family history. A family history of addiction can be a strong indicator of genetic disposition. If close relatives such as parents or siblings have struggled with addiction, an individual may be at higher risk due to a shared genetic trait. Number 3, specific genes. Research has identified specific genes that are associated with addiction susceptibility. For example, variations in genes related to dopamine receptors and neurotransmitter regulation can alter an individual's response to addictive substances. Let's say that again for the people in the back. For example, variations in genes related to dopamine receptors and neurotransmitters regulation can affect an individual's response to addictive substances. That means I'm not even processing it like you process. Why Tony can drink one drink and be fine, and I drink another drink, and I got to have more. I'm craving more. I need more. My genes are set up different. We're not cut from the same cloth. We're made differently. Everybody is made a little bit differently, right? Stop comparing yourself. Why one family member can do this and another family can't? You don't know what their gene makeup is. You don't know what their specific genes are doing, right? Again, these things are happening inside of our bodies, and we have no idea. Why is a craving so strong? Why can't I break this? Why can't I just do this? I'm trying to quit. Like, why can't I just quit? Your specific genes may be playing a role, honey. Number 4, interaction with the environment. While genetics play a significant role, environmental factors can contribute to addiction. So a person with a genetic predisposition may still require exposure to certain substances or environments to trigger the addiction. So interaction with your environment, that means, as long as I'm not hanging around people. Have you been in a situation where you don't even drink? You don't even drink, but you get around people that's drinking. You get around people that's smoking. You get around people that's gambling. You get around people that's sexing, whoever, whatever. Oh, okay. Y'all, what y'all doing? What y'all doing? Y'all doing what? You want to try? It feel good, right? Interaction with environment. Okay. That's why they say your environment, who you're hanging with, makes a tremendous difference. What you're doing makes a tremendous difference. When I moved to Texas, 16 years old, my cousins were in church. So guess where I was at? In church. If my cousins would have been out drinking and smoking and doing whatever stuff, guess what I would have been doing? Out drinking and smoking and doing the stuff. Easily. So it's not about, one being better than the other, or, again, there's no judgment in that thing, because you're just doing what you've been in, what your environment is doing. That's why it's important to understand there's some environments that you can go to and be around and stay, and then there's some environments that you can't. You have to know yourself. What can I handle? If I know that I have a drinking problem, if I know that I have a drug problem, guess what? I can't go back hanging with people that's still drinking and drugging, and I'm trying to change. You still trying to go back and do the same thing. You setting yourself up for failure. If you understand that you want to do something different, you have to change your environment. If you want to get to the next level, if you want to shift in any kind of way, you got to go with people that are doing the things that you want to do. Your environment makes a difference. When I started praying and fasting and doing all the things, I had to get around people that are praying and fasting and doing the things, because guess what? The people that just regular people, A doctor at the job, you know what she said? Oh my God, that's crazy. What you mean you fast? You not gonna eat nothing for 42 days? What? You only drinking? What? You gonna die. I had a whole list of people on a Zoom call every night for 42 days that's with me that I ain't got to explain this to. They know what's going on. We're in the same environment. We're wanting the same things. We're all shifting. We're all wanting better, right? I don't have to explain this to them. They know. It makes a difference. What environment are you in? Who are you hanging around? What are you doing? Steve Harvey said it best, and I said this on one of the podcasts. He said, man, when I started making a little bit of money, I tried to go back to the hood. And, he was trying to hang around with his homeboys or whatever. And I'm not saying that you can't go and be with family, be with friends, be with whoever your old people were, because best believe I'm going back and see my people and be more like I am. I'm going back and hang with my family like I am. I'm going to do that. But to sit up and feel like this obligation that I got to hang with y'all every day, that I got to do this thing every day, or what? No, I got stuff that when you on the next level, you have goals and dreams and things that you can't do what you used to do, because ain't nobody, they just sitting around doing nothing. If I sat around and watched TV all day, guess what? I'm not going to do the things that I know that is in my purpose to do. I can't do that. I can't hang around people that's good with just sitting around watching TV. All right, we can watch the show one time, but all right, 30 minutes. All right, that was my break. When you shift in your mindset, you got to get around people that are on the level that you want to be on. You got to start listening to people that are where you want to be, right? I'm listening to Les Brown. I'm listening to Eric Thomas. I'm listening to Inky Johnson, right? Because they're on the level that I want to be, right? What are you listening to? What environment are you hanging around? It makes a difference. Number 5. Oh, this is important. Complex interaction. It is important to note that addiction is not solely determined by genetics. It's a complex interplay between genetics, your environment, and psychological factors. Not everyone with a genetic predisposition will develop an addiction, and conversely, some individuals without a genetic predisposition may still develop an addiction. Mom and them, they had to do it. But I'm making a conscious decision that I'm going to get me a drink after work. Mom ain't never drunk a day in her life. But my friends are drinking after work, so I'm going with them. Man, I drank that glass of wine and it felt good. Ooh, let me get another one. Ooh, girl, that was good. Let me get another one. Right? Having to drink a glass of wine after work is not a big deal. But when you drink a bottle, you want to look at that thing. Number 6, prevention and treatment. Understanding the genetic predisposition can help with early prevention of efforts and personalized treatment approaches. Individuals with a genetic predisposition may benefit from interventions aimed at reducing their exposure to addictive substances or behaviors and receiving tailored treatment plans. Prevention and treatment, again, very much key. So why is this an important conversation? Because one, if you're not drinking, if you're not in that space, then guess what? I don't want you to get there. Understand how easy it is to get there when you're in the environment, when you are surrounded and your friends are doing all the stuff, but you really don't want to do the stuff. Understanding what it does to your body and your mind and your spirit and your emotions, and the leading down to the mental health disorders, of leading down the rabbit hole, right? Leading down to the cycles. Understanding what it does to your mind, understanding what that rise in cortisol level does to you, what that rise in dopamine does to you. It makes a tremendous difference. And so I pray, again, I'm not a counselor. I'm just here to educate and bring information from an angle of humanity, from an angle of grace, and from an angle of understanding, right? From an angle of grace and forgive yourself. If you are in a place where you have been addicted to anything, no matter what it is, the predisposition, the mind, everything that we've talked about today, understand that it played a role. I need you to give yourself some grace and stop beating yourself up. You were doing what you needed to do, but cope with and cope how you knew how to cope at the time. But if you're at a point in your life where you want something different, taking the time to understand why your mind goes where it goes, why you're doing the behaviors that you're doing, is one thing that I know has helped me. And so I just pray that it will help you as well. So for any information, for any addiction, please look in the comment section. There are plenty of resources on the YouTube channel, in the comment section, in the description, available for you. The programs that I run are ran from a purpose of inner work, self-mastery, self-healing, right? But it works best in combination with a therapist. This is not the end-all be-all. It is complex, right? And so this can be a beginning for you, but understand this is a journey. It is a journey. And it's a journey that takes more than one layer because, as I've said multiple times, it's very complex. And so understand, if you tried and failed before, that is why, honey. Because you're trying to do one thing and you're trying to do it one way, or maybe you're trying to do it alone. And this is not a journey that you should do alone. Not in this day and age when there are plenty of resources out there to help you. It's your girl, Michelle D.I. I'm here sending light and love. And this today has been the factors of addiction that affect your mind so strongly. I pray that something was said or heard today to help you to navigate into a new space. Again, a space of grace and a space of forgiveness, so that you can walk in a different light, so that you can start to see yourself as God sees you. You are a conqueror. You are a survivor. You are still here on this side of heaven because God is wanting to use you in some form, in some way. Everybody thinks it has to be some grandiose thing like, oh my God, I'm not Oprah. What can I do? But guess what? You and your presence affect somebody. You bring joy and light to somebody in this world. Somebody needs you. And if you're out there saying, I don't have nobody, I'm all by myself, then guess what? You're enough. Love yourself enough. Because if you haven't figured it out yet, again, you are enough, honey. You are worthy of joy, love, peace, happiness, and abundance. I call it generational wealth. It's way more than money. You are worthy of an abundance of joy, love, peace, faith, understanding. Yes? I need you to see yourself. Start seeing yourself the way that God sees you. All right. I'm going to read the devotion for the day. Today is September the 8th. We are in Joy and Strength, 365 days of devotion, and it is September the 8th. September the 8th, and it reads, Certainly heard. Certainly heard. Certainly God has heard me. He has attended to the voice of my prayer. That is in Psalms 66, verse 66. That is in Psalms 66 and 19. Chapter 66, verse 19. This is a New King James Version. Certainly heard. Certainly God has heard me. He has attended to the voice of my prayer. That is in Psalms chapter 66, verse 19 of the New King James Version. And the devotion says, God has no limits on his capacity in any way. Where we are confined to the bounds of our understanding, God is not. That means, Lord, I have this addiction. I don't know. I can't see my way out. We are bound to our understanding. I don't know how I'm going to do it. God is not bound. He is able to see every detail and not lose sight of a single one, no matter how small. He is able to account for the hairs on our heads. How much more does he listen to our cries? Your prayers does not go unnoticed. He hears you, even when words never pass your lips. By word, thought, or deed, baby. He's listening. He knows you, and he cares for you. He is such an attentive and kind-hearted Father. He will not disappoint you. He won't ignore your pleas. He has heard it all, and he will come through for you. Just you wait and see. Faithful God, answer me today. My heart is encouraged in the confidence of you hearing my prayers. But Lord, take it a step further. Attend to me, speak to me, answer me. I don't pre-read these. I just go to the date at the end and I read whatever is there. And what I feel is God is answering prayers through this video. Understanding for you that whatever it is that you're suffering and you don't have to suffer any longer, that you do have a choice. You can start choosing you. And that is my prayer for you. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you just saying thank you. I thank you, Lord, for this person, whoever this is on the other side, listening to the sound of my voice. Lord, I pray you give them strength. I pray you restore their peace, Lord. I pray that you give them courage to do what needs to be done, to break the chains, to break the bondage, to break each and every anchor that has been holding them down. Lord, I pray that they know that despite the things that they have done, that you are a forgiving God, that you have already forgiven them, and that it's time for them to forgive themselves. That as long as they're on this side of heaven, Lord, your will in their life can still be done. Your will in their life can still be done. And we are praying that it is so, giving your name all the glory, all the honor, all the praise, knowing that there are no coincidences in this world. Only your divine intervention in their lives, Lord. Only your divine intervention in our lives. Giving your name all the glory, honor, and praise. In your Son Jesus' name we pray, our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.